It's almost 3 in the morning, and you are the only soul awake on the night bus when someone steps on at an empty stop and lowers himself into the seat directly across from you. And the first thing you notice is that he is impossibly tall, his head nearly grazing the roof, his knees folded up because the world was clearly not built to his size, and his skin carries a faint golden undertone you have never once seen on another living person. And when the passing streetlights slide across his face, you catch it. One eye dark brown and the other a pale clouded gray, two different colors in the same calm stare. So you ask him where he's headed, and he smiles and gives you a name you've never heard in any language you know and tells you he was born on a speck of an island. Most maps don't bother to print, and that when he hums a tune, he can taste the notes on his tongue like each one has its own flavor. And you open your mouth to ask 100 more questions, and then the bus jolts hard and your eyes snap open and you're lying in your own bed in the dark with your heart pounding against your ribs, and the question won't leave you alone. Could a person like that actually exist somewhere out there? And the strange truth is that statistically, yes, almost certainly. But that quiet yes opens a far bigger and stranger door. Because out of the 8 billion people breathing on this planet at this very second, what would the single rarest human possible actually look like? And the only way to find that person is to build them deliberately, one trait at a time, and watch the odds fall off a cliff with every piece we add. So we begin with the most basic question of all, where they come from. Because there are roughly 7,000 distinct peoples on Earth, but humanity is not poured evenly between them, a small handful of gigantic populations hold the overwhelming majority of us, while thousands of other groups have dwindled to almost nothing. So, for our person, we refuse to pick a crowd. We walk all the way to the farthest edge of the human family and place their roots in one of the world's tiniest surviving communities, a people who number only a few hundred individuals in total. And the moment you weigh those few hundred against 8 billion, before we have handed them a single feature, a single quirk, a single drop of difference, they are already something like one in tens of millions. And that is only the foundation, because now we start stacking and we give them their height, the kind of towering frame that belongs to far less than one person in 1,000, and the crowd of possible people thins out sharply. And then we move to the eyes and give them complete heterochromia, two genuinely different colored eyes, a trait carried by only a tiny fraction of a percent of everyone alive. And we divide the field again, and then we reach into their veins and give them the rarest blood known to medicine, the type so unusual it is nicknamed golden blood, missing the markers that nearly every other human carries, so staggeringly rare that fewer than 100 people on the entire planet have ever been confirmed to have it. And when you drop a number like that into the running math, the odds don't merely shrink, they almost wink out of existence entirely. And yet we are nowhere near finished, because next we make them perfectly ambidextrous, equally fluent with either hand in a way that is rarer still than simply being left-handed. And then we lace their brain with synesthesia, that astonishing crossing of the wires where the senses bleed into one another so that a sound can carry a color or a word can carry a taste, something only a small slice of humanity ever experiences. And on top of that, we grant them perfect pitch, the near magical ability to name any note pulled out of thin air. And then we crown them with red hair, the single rarest natural hair color on the planet, found in barely 1 or 2 people out of 100. And then we take their fingertips and give them adermatoglyphia, the bizarre and almost unheard of genetic condition that leaves a person with no fingerprints whatsoever, documented in only a tiny handful of families in all of recorded history. And then we set their birthday on the 29th of February, a leap day arrival shared by only about one person in 1500, and we give them an identical twin standing somewhere in the world. And finally, we make them one of the vanishingly rare people whose eyes are true tetrachromats, able to perceive shades and depths of color the rest of us cannot even picture. And here is the thing you have to understand, that not one of these traits is shocking on its own. Each is merely uncommon, the sort of thing you might meet once in a lifetime. But the instant you begin multiplying them together, one after another, the number describing this exact human being swells into something the mind genuinely cannot hold. Because by the time the final trait is locked into place, the odds of one single person carrying all of it at once are smaller than the number of people alive on Earth today, smaller than the number of humans who have ever drawn breath across all of history, smaller even than the number who will likely ever be born in all the ages still to come. And on paper, by every cold and honest law of probability, this person is a flat impossibility, a human who should never, under any reasonable accounting of chance, have come into existence at all. And yet, somewhere out there among those 8 billion living people, someone is always sitting closer to that impossible edge than you would ever dare to guess, carrying 3 or 4 or 5 of these unlikely gifts at once without a single stranger on the street ever knowing. And so the golden skinned giant on the night bus was never a fantasy your sleeping mind invented out of pure nothing. He was simply the far outer rim of what humanity quietly, constantly, miraculously produces every single day while the rest of us look away. And now comes the part that should genuinely stop you where you sit, because you, the ordinary person who thinks none of this applies to them, you are also an impossibility. The exact unbroken chain of ancestry and migration and famine survived and war outlived, and two specific people meeting against every odd, the precise roll of genetic dice that assembled the one particular human reading. These exact words at this exact moment carries odds every bit as absurd, every bit as close to zero as the impossible stranger we just built from scratch. And so the rarest human possible was never going to turn out to be a mismatched-eyed giant on a midnight bus after all. It was always, quietly, impossibly, breathtakingly going to be you.